Hello, welcome to Land Title Talk, where we encourage you to text in with your questions or comments at 904-501-4481, 904-501-4481, or you can email me at Stephen, Stephen, at golandtitle.com, GOLANDTITLE.com, and we'll discuss your questions on the air. Today I'm joined by Rusty Collins, as always. Thank heavens. Probably won't do a show without you. My lovely brother from the law office of J. Russell Collins, affectionately known as Rusty Law. We have Julie with me here today to keep us in line and help us look up things when we need to, or if we just get off base, she can rein us back in. And then today, we're really grateful and thankful to have with us a very special guest, someone I've known for a very long time and has been a part of this community. I'm surprised we don't call it Terryville anymore, but Terry Pacetti, who's been in real estate. Terry, how long have you been in real estate?
61 years.
61 years. So that you started in
65.
Started 1965.
Don't do math in your head like that.
Well, I'm 63, and I was born in 62.
Oh, that was easy.
So it was quick.
It's got a shortcut.
So, Terry, what made you start in real estate?
Well, it's really part of a story, but when I got out of high school, I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and went to Auto Diesel College. When I came back, worked everywhere, trying to keep enough income to stay alive, waiting on the job for the railroad. And so eventually, the railroad called me and gave me a job, and I really appreciated it. And I lived next door to an old man. He was 95 years old, and I don't seem too old anymore, but anyway, he was 95 years old, and he used to come over every day and say, "Terry, you got to get out of this railroading and get into the real estate business. You got to do it." And my son did it, and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, the railroad goes on strike, and so I didn't have a job after all.
And where were you working when that took place?
New Smyrna.
New Smyrna.
I'd gone down there for the job.
Because you grew up here.
I grew up here, yeah.
So you, what school did you go to? St. Joseph School? Did you go to
No,
St.
I went
Joseph?
I went to CPS.
Okay.
And then I went to Catalinas for 2 years, and then graduated from high school in Hastings.
You did go to Hastings.
Yeah.
I did. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So did Roland, so did David, my
Okay.
two brothers, yeah. So we all graduated
Hastings
there.
High, right there, down at the, and actually, thanks to you, that high school is still standing. But we'll talk about that later. Finish your story about the railroad.
Well, anyway, so I started this school at night to take a real estate course, and went ahead and got my license. And I heard that a friend of mine, Ray McCall, was leaving his job at St. Augustine Realty, and he was going back to Palatka and opening an office. And so I called him, and we'd been friends since kids. And he told me he was leaving, going back to Palatka and opening his own office, and it would be a job opportunity there. So I went to work for Ed Overby at St. Augustine Realty when I first got my license.
Wow.
And
At that building, this is where it is today, isn't it?
yeah,
That same building.
Yeah,
Um,
corner of Valencia Street. So I worked there for probably a year and a half or so, and my brother Roland got his real estate
now,
license.
you were how old at this point?
24.
24. Okay.
Yeah. And my brother Roland got his real estate license, and we decided we wanted to open our own office. And so I had signed a non-compete agreement here, so I couldn't open here. So I ended up in Palatka, opened there, and then I moved back to St. Augustine.
What was the name of the company back then?
Pacetti Realty.
Pacetti Realty.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was not a corporation. It was just Pacetti Realty.
Okay. So that was you, Roland, and
Just Roland and I to start with. And then Granddaddy Pacetti passed away, left Roland his property on the Joe Ashton Road where we grew up, where we were raised. Roland kept it all that time and sold it, so we would have enough money to go in business with. $150 an acre
wow.
on Joe Ashton Road. So, yeah. So Granddad was a great special man, to do that. And now with what we've learned, we've talked to hundreds and hundreds of people.
When did Mom get into business? Because Estelle.
And after I'd been in the business a while, I called her up and said, "Mom, you got to quit she was driving the school bus to Hastings and running the school cafeteria and then driving the school bus home. She was a go-getter, but as I recall, those days there was no air conditioning in where she did all that cooking. It was just really hard on her. But anyway, so I called her up and said, "Mom, you got to quit your job. You got to come and work with me." She said, "I can't quit my job. I need the money." I said, "Mom, we'll figure it out. We'll make it whatever we have. We'll share. We always have and we always will." So I finally convinced her in doing it. She'd been going to the VOTEC school at night to learn how to type. And so getting her to type a contract was a job. She made up for it. So just a couple of weeks ago, one of my granddaughters told me, said, "I went to get a massage. And the guy said he bought his house from your mother, Estelle Pacetti." So we hear that frequently. And then
Estelle Pacetti worked in real estate to what year of her life?
88 or 9.
And when did Estelle pass away?
When she was 91.
91.
Yeah.
She was always a figure when I was in when I first started working for my father.
She was a go-getter.
Yeah, she always was. Just I thought she worked till the day she got her graduation papers.
Yeah.
I was convinced she would die with a commission check in her hands. Coming from a closing.
She was I was 12 or 13 years old before we had electricity or running water in the house.
Wow.
And she raised 5 kids with that.
Wow.
How she did it was just miraculous, really.
And
she was a special lady.
And Terry, you've been involved in a lot of development in St. Augustine.
Well, when I started, Stephen, there was 15,000 people that lived in the city and 15,000 lived in the county. So it was only 30,000. Wow. And they had this cliche, used to say that Ponce de Leon, when he left town, he said, "Don't do anything till I come back." and for 40 years, they didn't do anything. So, I learned a lot about the business. I learned a lot of it the hard way. My good friend Rusty here helped me a lot. But we've done a lot of developments, but we did something that I think needs to be done today. It needs to be done immediately. I went before the county commission 35 years ago and asked them to please increase the size of the lots because we'd had great success with Prairie Creek, and even though the markets went up and down, when you drive through there,
you developed Prairie Creek.
Yeah,
you was involved in it.
When you drive through Prairie Creek today, you see
beautiful. One of the most. I guess if I can speak English, the most beautiful, is that English? Most beautiful communities in St. Augustine.
Well, it was
Prairie Creek.
It was. We saved the trees, most of them, all we could. We saved the trees, and when you go in there today, you see the animals are everywhere, the deer are everywhere, and just nice.
My friends who live in there love the fact they can't have any rose bushes. It's full of deer. You planted rose bushes just to feed the deer.
Yeah. Well. And then went across the street to Wildwood Creek and developed that. And then for Fort Peyton Forest.
That's right.
And then Deerwood Acres. And so, but we made the lots bigger. And now I'm glad we did because the lots were, there wasn't, water and sewer wasn't available. So we had to make them bigger anyway, but we learned that.
So were you the one that started that water plant on Wildwood, in Wildwood?
No, I didn't do that. We, probably paid for it, I think, but Mr. Mills built it.
Okay. And then you also developed Oak. What's that subdivision over here? Just
Oak
right
Grove.
over here.
Oak Grove.
Yeah.
You developed Oak Grove.
We did that one.
Yeah. So you've had your hand in a lot of development.
Well, it's been 61 years. It's a long time to be involved in it. And then I met this guy and I don't know where the camera.
Yeah, that's good. Yep. That's good right there. Yeah. Perfect.
And Bob Lagacy, my former brother-in-law, told me one day, he said, "I got this guy over in Water Management District I want you to meet. I'm fixing to retire." And he said, "I want you to come over." And I went and I met this man named Maury Sterling. And Maury Sterling said, "My goodness," he said, and I was showing him on a napkin all the stuff that we do. And he said, "If you'll help me make an outline," he said, "I'll help you write a book." And So that's where the book came from. So we wrote this book, which is a lot about the business, a lot about the family, but the town, when it decided to grow, it really took off. But it was just starting in Ponte Vedra, developing. I can't remember the names at the moment, but and then it went from there. But for a long time, it didn't do anything in northwest part of the county for years.
Right.
It didn't grow at all. Just, and they had a little trailer. We got some pictures of us. It's in this book, riding on a little train. Gosh, that's got to be 60 or 70 years ago.
Wow.
But there was nothing there, It was just the woods. But now you see all the development there, still going on. In my opinion, which should increase the size of the lots and reduce the density.
Right.
And that would do a whole lot.
Well, that genie's out of the bottle now.
But 35 years ago, I went before the county commission and asked them not to do that.
Yeah.
And
well,
because
our county would look quite differently now if that had happened.
At that time, it was more about the septic tank.
Yeah.
Than it was about the size of the lots. But anyways, we've witnessed all the changes. I was started off as the youngest member of the board of realtors and ended up as the oldest.
That's something. That's something to be proud of, actually.
Well, I'm still alive.
Yeah, that's always a good sign. I have a question for you about St. Augustine, the city proper, St. Augustine, downtown St. Augustine. I've heard stories in the past about there were developers who wanted to take St. George Street out and things of that nature. Are you aware of those stories, or are they just rumor, or is it true that there was a few people that got together and saved St. George Street in that area, or was it always going to be protected?
I think it would have always been protected, but there were they had different factions. But we had some guys here in town that really loved the town the way it was.
Right.
And they were Hamilton Up Church and some of the leaders that were here that did a really good job at protecting the town, protecting the community, and they were just part of it. When I was working at St. Augustine Realty, Mr. Overby, my boss, and I, we used to go across the street to the Ponce de Leon Hotel and have lunch. One day we go over there and the door's locked and it's closed. And so we watched them take that from the Ponce de Leon Hotel to the college today.
Yeah.
And there's some people that did a really good job, or that would have been no telling what would have happened.
Right.
But Upchurch, Hamilton, and Frank, and some others had a lot to do with making it a college, making it where it is. So I have a lot of respect for them for doing that.
Right.
Because
it could have easily gone the other direction. This whole town could be totally different now if it wasn't for some of those people who had the foresight.
Yeah. John Bailey, Senior.
Yeah.
John Bailey Senior, and some others. I'll think of the names we're talking about. But they did a lot for the town.
Yeah.
And St. George Street.
Yep.
They did that. They were instrumental in the politics to keep it going and make it better.
Well, you had a lot involved with Hastings, and I'd forgotten that you had actually gone to that high school.
We did.
Pretty amazing, because they planned to demo that high school. I can't remember what year that was, but somehow you stopped that. I don't know how you did, but how did you stop that?
Well, I didn't stop it, but there was a group of us that decided.
Well, you are part of that, Terry, and I think you're a very big part of it.
Well, a girl called me up, a woman. Everybody's a girl now, but a lady called me up and said, "Terry, they're going to tear our school down." I said, "Do what?" "They're going to tear the building down." I said, "No." So I read in the paper that they had let a contract for $146,000 to somebody to tear it down. And so when the word got out, about 100 people gathered around the school, and all of a sudden,
Really?
people were really interested in that building and not tearing it down. It was just a beautiful. It's about 30,000 square feet. It's made out of the same material as the Ponce Leon Hotel, so there was no reason to tear it down. And but we got together and started doing everything we could to raise money, barbecues and whatever. And we met every week in Hastings. One night we were having a meeting, and a guy stands up. None of us knew who he was. And he said, "My name is Cullen Chambers, and I'm a professional grant writer." And he said, "I came to help you." He said, I won't charge anything, and I won't accept any money for it." Guys, he saved the building. He knew all about grant writing, and he knew about historic grants, and so he raised the money that really allowed us to save that building. But we had utilized some of the training some of us did. That I went to the school board and they said, "We've already let the contract. We can't do anything about it." We went and found the guy that had bought the contract, had gotten the contract. He was a nice guy, and so we paid him $5,000 not to tear it down for three weeks, give us enough time to see if we could save it. We went to the county commission, and county commissioners were great, but they said we don't have any money. We went to the town of Hastings, which was the town at the time.
Definitely didn't have any money.
And they said, we don't have any money. And but we said, "We'd like for you to take title to the building. And if we can't fix it," some of the farmers gathered around and said, had heavy equipment or heavier equipment, said, "We'll tear it down. We'll do it ourselves if we have to." And so with that, and along came Cullen Chambers, miracle, and we saved that building.
And that building now, it became the city building for a long time, and they used it for a library for a long time. And now they're doing something. Could you look that up, Julie?
Yeah.
Do you know what they're doing right now to it?
Yeah, it's they're making a training center for the trades.
Okay.
It's
a school.
got a good
making
use.
a school
Yeah,
then.
yeah, making
Okay.
a school.
Make it a school again.
Yeah, but it has 5 acres out behind the school, and we planted potatoes and back there when we were kids. It was part of the training, and I was lucky enough to serve as president of the 4-H club and the FFA, and so we got to. I wasn't a farmer, but I could act like one for a little while. No, we had fun with it. It was a great school, and we loved it. And so when I recently had a picture. I found an old picture back in 1958 when we were seniors in high school, and it had a picture of us, the boys, laying out on the ground, and somebody took pictures of us. It was there's only about 16 or 18 of us in the whole thing.
Wow.
Well, it wasn't probably that many, 21, I think, in our graduating class. But back in the day, we couldn't play basketball very well, but we had a really good football team. Those little potato diggers could do it. And
awesome.
we had a undefeated 2 seasons in a row, and so it was just good. And the people loved it, and the town loved it, and so we've learned a lot about it, and the blessings that went along with that, and the relationships and the friendships that we developed there have lasted forever. And, when I think back to St. Augustine, and when I started in real estate business, there was only 15,000 people that lived in the city of St. Augustine, and 15,000 lived in the county. There was no development at all going on at that time that I'm aware of. There was Mr. Powell, Clyde Powell. He was building some houses, and we sold some of those, but basically there was nothing going on in the construction or development field that I recall. I'm sure there was something small, but it wasn't anything big. So it was opportunity time. I mean, we just had a beautiful little town, and then like you were mentioning about John Bailey and Hamilton and numerous others really got together and did a lot to save the town. In fact, being mayors, They were all served as mayor, I think. So it's been a blessing. I have mixed emotions about the real estate and how it's being used, and so you're in the business, and
Right.
you own property, and you have rights that goes along with that. And
In the same token, there's got to be some kind of
got to be a balance.
there's got to be balance
There has
for
to be
for
a
the whole
balance.
community's sake. There has to be balance.
It does.
Yeah.
And
And it isn't, because I'm a property rights owner. I'm a property rights person myself.
Yeah.
And I think you are too. But there's, I remember when the comprehensive land plan was trying to be passed. I mean, I was down there screaming and hollering about how unjust it was.
yeah,
I got to say now, I'm thankful for that rule. I'm thankful for that being passed. It's been hard. It's been difficult for some people, but it has saved our town to some degree, or our community, or our county.
I
to some
agree.
degree.
I agree. If you think about it, it's just like Prairie Creek. It's a good example. Wildwood Creek, Deerwood Acres are good examples. Larger lots, all right, that did not require water and sewer, so you didn't have to spend that money, and you could pass that along to the buyer. You could
Right.
pass that saving along
Savings
to the buyer.
to the buyer, yeah.
And price wise, so we got where we could buy it and lay it out. We could take a drawing, lay out a subdivision, and come pretty close on the numbers about what it would cost to develop it and so
Right.
forth. And then that got away from us, and now you got big developers and big money.
Yeah.
And
All the national developers came into town. I remember the days when you didn't have national builders in this community,
Yeah.
in this town. You had your local builders.
Yeah.
You were a builder. You had some of the local guys, but we didn't have these national builders. Now, you and your family actually worked with you in real estate. I mean, at one point you had all your children there, didn't you? At one point,
had all four of them.
yeah.
And so I've just been a blessed dad, granddad most important, but I've been a really blessed dad, and to be able to take what we've learned and now just teach it. And we've written several books, and Suzanne, my oldest daughter, and Cheyenne and Cassie, they used to go to the courthouse back in the day when there was no computers in the courthouse, and they learned to look up distressed properties, and we started with that, and they got really good at it. So we ultimately wrote some books about that and some of the things that I would like to share with the audience. In fact, this audience, I don't have any more of these hard copies of this book,
Right.
but what I do have is I have it on email, and I'd be glad to give it to anybody that would like to read it. It's a lot about St. Augustine. So when I look at the time spent over the years, you just make a lot of mistakes if you don't have a mentor. A mentor is the most important person anybody can have.
Well, your family was trailblazers in the distressed property market.
Yeah.
You all did things that were not common, but helped out a lot of people.
Well, we've helped a lot of people save their homes.
Yep.
Helped others sell their homes that needed to
Yep.
sell, didn't have the options. And they break your heart when you go into a house and see kids' toys and stuff left behind, and things that the children are going to need or want. Excuse me. And so we learned a lot about it. And I'm teaching a class now. Different nights of the week, but actually I went to Hamilton Up Church called me one day and said, "Terry, I got somebody coming to town I want you to meet." I said, "All right." He's an auctioneer. I said, "I don't know any auctioneers." He said, "Well, I'll introduce you to a friend of mine." Well, his name was Benny Fisher. And so Benny said, "Terry, if you ever need to sell something, you need to get it done now." He said, he called me. He said, "I'll come up to St. Augustine and do an auction for you." So we'd bought some property down on 206. And I used to sit out there in a lawn chair waiting for a customer to come by on the weekends, and or hoping for a customer was
Right.
better. So so I called him. I said, "Benny, it's time for the auction man to come." So he said, "Tell me what to do." He said, "You got to pitch a tent. You got to send me some money for advertising, promotion." He had it all worked out. And he said, "And I'll come do an auction." Well, he said, "You got to get the place mowed down and get where the cars can get off the road." And so I did. I had a tent delivered out there and set up. And here comes Benny and his 2 sons and his wife. And they were as professional as they could possibly be. They were really good. In fact, Benny, I think, is in the Hall of Fame for auctioneers.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. So anyway, Hamilton started all that. And but when I saw that, I thought, I can learn to do that. That would be so much fun to do that. So I went to this. I found out how to go to heaven, and that was to get in the truck with my good friend and drive to Kansas City, Missouri, stay in the same room with him for 2 weeks, and then get in that same truck and drive home 1,200 miles. and if you get home and you haven't killed each other, you're going straight to heaven. So it was Francis O'Loughlin, our former sheriff.
Yep.
He and I drove up there and went to. But anyway, so I came back and took the test, and so I'm a licensed Florida auctioneer, and so we're doing some stuff now. I wrote a book called Auctions of the Week.
And I've seen you auction real estate. I've seen you auction social events. I've seen you auction a lot of things.
Well, I do some of that just for free, just to help fundraisers, and so I like doing it. But yeah, we're all for it. If there's anybody out there in the audience that has a nonprofit that they would like some help with an auction, I'd be glad to help them. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Terry, I have to talk about one thing that you're probably very experienced in because of your experience in real estate. But I want to talk real quickly when it comes to a potential buyer of a home. And I'm going to get your feelings too, Russ, because it's going to be contract law kind of a thing. In the state of Florida, what is a seller required to disclose to a buyer?
I call Rusty. We disclose everything. We don't hold that. We don't hold back.
Okay.
Unless, we just don't. I see the good and the bad of that, but we just don't. We think that people deserve the right to know what they're buying, and the idea that the buyer then can make a decision about what to pay for it and how to buy it and whether to buy it or not to buy it and so forth. So there's a lot.
But what does the law say?
The law is mostly buyer beware with a caveat. And
okay,
that
what's the
is
caveat?
The seller has a duty to disclose latent defects or defects that affect the value of the property that aren't readily seeable.
Okay.
Okay. And as if they know about them. So if you just put a bunch of kills over a bunch of black mold, you probably don't need to. That's not a good idea to hide. That can cause litigation.
Okay.
If you now there's a disclosure form with the real estate forms that are generally used that help prompt a seller about things. Have you replaced the septic tank? When? Okay. How old is your roof? Has there been any floods? Did you have 6 inches of water in the house sometime that you know about? You have a duty to disclose what you know about. It doesn't mean you have to go researching to find out stuff, but if you know about it, you have to disclose.
So if you as a seller know, you have to disclose.
Right.
So there's a fine line there because to me, Terry, it's sometimes expensive to try to prove what you didn't know. You know what I'm saying, Rusty?
Oh, obvious. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
So, you have a buyer who's going to buy your house. All right. It's their duty to get a home inspection. It's not the seller's job to try to talk the buyer out of buying their house. It's the buyer's job to get a home inspection if they want one. But if the buyer doesn't want one, it's not the seller's job. Well, you better get a home inspection. But I will tell you that sometimes I wonder if it's not better for a seller because it gets really expensive to try to prove what you didn't know. It's just hard.
If you don't have a duty to go out and look for stuff either as a seller.
That's the fine line that's hard to balance. I mean, you know, Terry, if you're on the listing side, home inspections are not the most fun things.
No, but it's a good thing, and I encourage our our sellers, to offer the home inspection, right? And it's a good way, especially if you got some issues. It's a good way to clear the air about what you have to offer.
Right. I agree with you. It's just it's a fine line, because, you know, we don't want to, you know, screw up the deal, right? We want the deal to close. We want the buyer to buy, we want the seller to sell. As soon as we have knowledge, now we have to disclose. But I think it's better to do that than it is, like you said, Terry, to have the seller do the home inspection, have it readily available. The buyer can do their own inspection they like, but just to have it readily available so that they know we in good faith have disclosed everything we know. And here's an inspection to back that up.
Yeah, that's the real way to do it, in my opinion. You know, it's a lot of people don't have the money and won't do it, and I understand that too. But then you just still, like Rusty says, you disclose everything you know.
Right.
Well, you have to disclose what you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't know, and you don't have a duty to go inquire if you're the seller.
But you understand what Terry's saying, though, Rusty.
Right.
Okay. I like it because what that is you have a listing, you have a home inspection done, and with that home inspection being done, now we know what could be found. And the great thing about that is we're not scrambling to fix things after we get a buyer. We go ahead and get ahead of it and say, all right, we have some wood rot, we have this, things that an inspector is going to point out. We might as well just fix them now instead of later, right?
If you can do it, if you have the ability to do it. I mean, every situation is different, but I think you have to have, if you're wise, if your real estate agent's wise, they're going to have a seller complete that home disclosure. Because it helps.
Does the selling agent, and the selling agent is the agent that works with the buyer.
Right.
Does the selling agent have a responsibility to require the buyer to have a home inspection?
To require it? No.
Well, I use
to talk about it. Yes.
I use the wrong word. Of course, not required, but yes, to talk about it.
I think, you know, it's important that buyers are informed, because they need to make an informed decision. Is it going to make some things not close? Probably. But at least real estate agents also don't want to have to defend themselves.
Absolutely.
And believe me, you know, when something goes wrong, well, you're the professional. You probably knew, so prove that you didn't. And maybe you have E&O insurance, and we'll just attack that. So we don't need to go there. We don't need that. The seller needs to do the disclosure with the form that's there to help prompt them. Okay. If they know, they know. If they don't know, there's a place to say, I don't know. I haven't looked. A real estate salesperson who finds a buyer, they need to make sure that they treat that buyer right, make sure that I think it'd be important to have an inspection, because, you know, one day that buyer may sell, and you want them to come back to you.
Should the agent have a hold me harmless form? If the agent goes to a buyer and says, hey, Mr. Buyer, I suggest you get a home inspection. And the Mr. Buyer's like, well, I have an FHA appraiser. I'm doing an FHA loan.
We hear
They're going to inspect it.
We hear it a lot.
Yeah, but that FHA inspector does not represent anybody except the lender and HUD.
So should not an agent have a hold harmless for that?
Put it this way. If the agent knows something that's not disclosed,
no,
it's not going to hold him harmless for that.
But if the agent, you know, tells his buyer, hey, you should get a home inspection, the buyer says no, later on, some kind of horrible defect that could have been found by a home inspection, what's that buyer going to do when they go get an attorney?
Well, they want to sue everybody.
That's right. So why not have a hold harmless?
That's fine. It may or may not do what you think. The best thing to do is to make sure, again, if you were saying, hey, my real estate agent told me to do A, I'm doing B, I'm stupid, sign here, that's fine. Okay? But if the real estate agent knows something.
Rusty, that's of course true. Okay. I mean, obviously,
if they find a meth lab a year later that was covered up,
yeah, that's a problem.
They're going after everybody.
Yeah, that's a problem.
They probably go after the title company, as far as I know.
Yeah. But I think that it'd be good for the agent, because we have a situation where a gentleman was buying a home, okay, and Terry, this gentleman, he looked at the home, and from what he recalls is that he was told that, hey, you don't necessarily have to have an inspection. You're getting financing. I know, and that the appraiser for FHA is going to look over everything for you. If there's anything in latent or any kind of defects, that appraiser is going to point it out for you. So you really don't need that inspection. Now, I'm going to tell you there's nothing further from the truth, because just like you said, that appraisal is not for the buyer.
And you just said a latent defect. Latent means you don't see it.
Right, but the appraiser could point that out.
If you can't see it, how does he know about it?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
If you've covered up a bad wall with paneling.
Look at our lawyer here.
I got you. Yeah, I understand. I'm using bad terminology.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Right.
All right.
And an inspector's not necessarily going to be able to find that. I don't know. The inspectors have these freaking amazing tools, by the way.
They do. They do the heat thing.
Yeah,
they can see if there's
moisture and stuff.
They see moisture, but
they might be able to detect those things.
They do. Some of them do a really good job.
Yeah.
And,
but it's just an inspection based upon what can be seen without tearing the house apart. See, I mean, that's why I like the disclosure. Okay, has there been a past or present water intrusion affecting the property? Well, yeah, we had a flood, or we had a hurricane, and we had a little bit of water in there. Okay, so you put that down as a seller, and then you say, and this is what we did to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, they can do a bigger inspection if they want, but you've disclosed it. It's there to. I like the form because it's there to prompt you. And frankly, what's interesting is all the form generation stuff for the real estate agents, that they use to fill out their forms. They don't have this form computerized. You have to print it and hand it to them, and they fill it out.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, because then we don't have people just checking boxes for other people. So it's,
over the years, Terry, have you seen have you ever had a closing like that where a buyer doesn't want a home inspection, or you have a seller who's is hiding stuff? I mean, what do you do in that situation?
We had one, and the seller was just a seller. They had done some repairs to the house. Well, I don't know anything about construction, so we suggested the guy have an inspection, and he decides he don't want to have the inspection because he goes to the house, he sees the whole house, and he decides he doesn't want to have the inspection because he doesn't want to pay the money for the inspector,
right? Which
I understood. That afternoon, after the closing, we're riding along, and all of a sudden I get an email saying, the lady says that y'all knew about the house and it needed this and it needed that, and you didn't disclose it. We disclosed everything. We did the whole 9 yards. So finally, I think I called you, Rusty, and said, help. But anyway, that's why I like the idea of the inspection sooner than later in the process of marketing the house. You're done.
I think it's genius, Terry. I think it's a genius idea.
You've done your best to disclose to the buyer, any buyer. Here's a copy of the inspection report.
Right.
You know, like this one, go get your own. But I mean, it's a marketing plan, I think, or an insurance thing where you.
I have a question though, Rusty. Would they need to get an inspection for them? Because if they want to sue an inspector, I guess they would need to have inspection.
Have you ever read the disclaimer on one of those things?
I have not.
Yeah. They're not responsible
for nothing.
Well, maybe gross negligence, okay?
All right.
If you don't see the big gaping hole with termites crawling out of it, maybe they're responsible. But
okay.
Mostly they're not.
You know, this reminds me of a story, Terry. I don't know if you remember the story. I have, because I grew up in the title industry with my father, yeah. And you've interacted with my father over the years. I've heard one of the stories I remember them sharing or talking about at the dinner table was a mantle and a duck and sawdust.
That's over by the high school.
Over by the high school.
Yeah.
You know that story?
Well, I know.
You were involved in that story too,
yeah.
Terry, I think.
I don't know.
I was over there by where.
Some things you forget.
Yeah, it was a mantle, right?
There was some sawdust there.
And there's some sawdust. And it had like a wood duck or something.
Yeah, the sawdust come out of the duck, or did it come from the termites?
So it was just one of those things, and it ended up being an issue. I mean, it wasn't dealt with, and the buyer, I think, had some problems with the
it's
sawdust.
amazing how easy things are to see when you look in the rearview mirror.
Right.
You never see them up front, but that's why we have inspectors. That's why, we can find these latent defects that really matter. You can't hide stuff, but if you are a buyer, you need to get inspection. If you're buying a brand new home that's just been built and has just got a CO, you should get an inspection. Why? Because you need somebody that's not the person who built it to tell you where stuff might be.
Right.
Even if there's nothing that's going to get fixed, at least you know what needs to be fixed. Or at least you know what to look for in the future. There's nothing it's a very little bit of money for the knowledge.
Right. Making an educated decision is important. If you're going to accept the house and it's got some issues, at least you know those issues are there. What's worse is when you buy it not knowing those issues are there. So I think getting a home inspection is important.
And the insurance thing.
And the insurance, yes. Well, you have to have a 4-point inspection anyhow nowadays for insurance. So it's like, why not just get the home inspection simultaneously?
We've seen all the changes.
Yeah.
That the contracts were nothing when we started.
Yeah, when you
It was a front and back.
Yeah, that was it. And so when I think back about it, and I want to make sure I tell this because this is important, I think, to a lot of families.
Right.
Our family has really benefited from the real estate business. Okay. I'm talking about my 4 children, my mother, both of my brothers, both of my sisters, brother-in-laws, and I'm talking about family.
How about your sisters? They were in real estate too?
That was all involved in the real estate business with me at one time. And,
Barbara Lagacy.
Barbara Lagacy.
Yes.
And Janine.
Yeah,
Lagacy.
Janine, that's right.
And so when I think about it, and then my son Chuck, he was president of the board in 2010, 40 years after I was, you know. So this has been good for us. It's been a blessing. The old man down that told me about it, the 95-year-old, now he's old, whatever that means. He did a real service to our family, and I'm just blessed by this county and Putnam County as well, but St. Johns County primarily, and all of the people and all of the referrals and all of the things that's kept us in business. I mean, we've just been up and down there. I didn't know anything about a recession. I learned a lot, and but that's what I'm saying. A mentor is so important in this business. Any person that goes to work for a real estate company that doesn't teach them more than just listing and selling real estate is shortchanging them. And that's why we wrote the books, and that's why we put together the training program that we have. We have a 14-point training program, which is just good. And it's all about training the agent how to do more than just list and sell, because we all get in just to do that.
Right.
And that's good. We make a living. I call it making a living. And from there, you have to build some equities. You have to build something for yourself, for your family. And we wrote a book called The 10-10 Plan, how to buy 10 houses, how to pay for them in 10 years, and how to retire with $10,000 a month income. Well, those numbers have changed some, obviously, but
that's still wouldn't be bad living.
But so one of my children and her husband, they go out and buy a mobile home park. Well, I wouldn't have bought it. I'd have probably torn it down.
I know which daughter that is.
Yeah, and they called me a couple of months ago. They've owned it about 15 or 20 years now. And she said, "Dad, next month we're going to pay the mortgage off."
Wow.
Last payment.
That's exciting.
And so we're going to have $10,000 a month income.
Wow. That's awesome.
Now, that's what the business will do for you if you get with the right people that understand the business and know how to do it. And that's real important.
Discipline and put hard work into it.
Yeah. He did a lot of work maintaining that. He did.
Yeah.
My son-in-law did great. Chuck, my son is a roofing contractor.
Sunshine Roofing.
Mm-hmm. Sunshine Roofing. He's also a real estate broker.
Yeah.
He's a licensed roofing contractor.
He's been doing that now for 12 years, 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they do well, do a good job, and have a good reputation with it, And so
He does more than that. He just helped a friend of mine with antique windows replacements.
windows,
Antique. Yeah.
they're doing a lot. And
Yeah.
he's building, and he's a licensed contractor, and so he's building houses. He built his son a house, and somebody saw the house. He said, "I want you to build me one." So now he's building that guy one. And but they're good, and they've learned they made a list. They've learned how to make a living, how to be successful, and whatever they do is up to them, And so all three of my girls, Suzanne, Cassie, and Cheyenne, they can all do the real estate business. When I have a question, I call them, and so I just think the thing has served us well. And you
They're
guys,
savvy.
your family, have done great by ours.
We've definitely
That's how I
been
met
working
you.
as a team for many, many years.
That's how I met you two.
Yep.
Y'all were little boys,
Yep.
and so that's. But I'm grateful to the public. I'm grateful to you guys, and to everybody that gave me advice I didn't take.
So if you had to share a story, a nightmare real estate story, because real estate, there's been so many good stories, Terry. You've done so many positive experiences, great closings. If you had to share a nightmare one, what would you say that would be?
Probably in 2008.
Well, that's right during the crash.
That was just a nightmare.
Life was just a nightmare back then. Everything was a nightmare.
And as much as we knew about the business, as long as we'd been in it, and it really took its toll on our
All of us.
all of us. It really just did.
Yeah.
And the thing that I like about it, it's let us bounce back. My kids are doing some different things. Two of them are in real estate full time. The other two are part timers in the business. They do other things. So, but it provided for us. It gave us with the crash. Oh my Lord, mercy! Seeing the property that you had listed, had part ownership and was worth this much money, and so you borrowed a little bit on it to start the process of development, and it shrunk down to where the bank called the note, and this was awful. They said, "We'll extend your mortgage." Fine. That was the only option we had. A few days later, we get a letter from a lawyer says, "You got to pay the mortgage off." We sent it over to you because y'all told us to send it up there. The bank went broke.
Wow.
The bank went out of business.
Wow.
So there we were. We were dealing with two banks with our business, and both of them went out of business.
Belly up. Yeah.
And so that was things that we had no control over, or maybe we did indirectly. But anyway, that was hard.
Those are some really tough years.
That was tough. And
Where were you in your lawyer phase during the crash?
I became a lawyer in September 2008
Just right in time for the
and went immediately into the
free
foreclosure
falling,
defense,
yeah.
the foreclosure defense business,
Yeah.
and then the bankruptcy business.
Yeah.
Those
are tough years, Terry.
that's as bad as it gets. And
we survived.
You never gave up.
But we did.
We never give up.
We didn't give
Get
up.
rid of the people that are weekend warriors.
I guess.
Yeah, it was a test. It was like things we never were taught to deal with anything like that. Nobody else was either.
Yeah.
So, but when I look back on it and I think about Hamilton, when I decided to go in business for myself, I was thinking about it, and I called Ham. He said, "Terry, go up and see Pop, his dad." Well, I made an appointment, and he had a driver drive him up to the building every day, and he'd come up the elevator, and he had his office on the 6th floor or 5th floor, and he was really nice to me. He said, I said, "Hamilton thought I should come talk to you and see what you think about me going in business for myself." And I think Ham thought Daddy Mike would finance me, but he didn't make that offer. But what he said to me was, I've taught it to a lot of people. He said, Terry, he said, have you got a lot of money? I said, no, sir, you know better. He said, well, Terry, do you have a lot of assets? And I said, no, sir, I sure don't. He reared back in his chair and he looked at me and he smiled. He said, well, Terry, you might as well go for it because you ain't got a hell of a lot to lose.
That's awesome.
That was the counsel.
Now, let me ask you about someone that you may have worked with, Billy Mitchell.
Billy Mitchell.
You remember him at all?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He worked for us.
He worked for you. You had that real estate. I don't know where you were, but a lot of agents in this town came through you, actually.
Yeah.
I think Billy Mitchell was. I don't know if
Billy was a exceptional good salesman.
Yeah.
And then, he had his own company. He did good with it. And he went the other direction. And so, but he's good. Billy and I were friends. Billy Pacetti was especially, and I were very close. We were just cousins, but
right.
We were very close. He's a good man. He was a good guy.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that, I always think Pinkham Pacetti was in your arena. He is not even a family member, not even close, is he?
Well, we're cousins somewhere down the road.
Somewhere.
But Pinkham was a really good for the community. He was a good man. He was a good dad, good granddad. Yeah. They were writing something about him this morning on Facebook.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
And, his daughter, they just good. He did good.
Yeah.
He and Linda, he and his wife Linda, they started their real estate business about the same time we did. He was in the insurance business before that, but he did really well. He just did good. So
we all were the foundation of this community,
but the smartest one, I guess, was Emmett Pacetti.
Yeah.
He was St. Augustine Beach mayor. He was a
surveyor too, wasn't he?
He was a surveyor, but he was an engineer. And then he got to be president of the board of realtors. Then he went on and got to be his district vice president of the Florida Association of Realtors.
He had that office right there downtown.
Yeah.
Where they have the duck store now, of all things. I don't know if you know about this. There's a store right where his office used to be, and they sell a bunch of ducks. It's just interesting to see his office full of ducks. But I remember as a kid making deliveries to him in that little office in there right downtown.
He was a good guy, and so he was served as president. David, my brother, served as president of the board.
Yep.
David was he was just a classic guy. Is what he was. He when he decided to quit drinking, he called me up one morning at 8:00 in the morning, and he said, "Jerry, will you come get me?" And I said, "Yeah. Where are you?" And he told me. And I went and got him, and he had a beer in his hand. 8:00 in the morning, he threw it out. He said, "I got to quit drinking." He said, "Or I'm going to kill somebody, or somebody's going to kill me accidentally." I went to AA with him, and he heard a guy give his testimony at AA meeting. He changed his whole life. He wrote a book, and I meant to bring one for y'all, and I'll give you one.
I have that book.
Okay.
I have it.
And
very amazing.
He wrote that book. He graduated from Bible school, which I didn't even know. I knew he took Bible courses, but he graduated from Rhema Bible College, and he did all that himself, and he was the vice chairman of the founding of the Prosperity Bank.
Yeah.
In Hamilton, and
a
few of them.
When you get David, nicest guy you'd ever meet, by the way, just nice guy. It was fun listening to some of his days of his younger years.
Oh my Lord!
Where he would just fist the cuff and just never lose.
Yeah, he was a character.
Yeah.
Then my brother Roland, who started in business with me, and his wife Glenda in Palatka, couldn't have been any better. Just was great, and so we worked together. But if you can imagine things being tight in 1965 in St. Augustine, how about Palatka? So we managed to survive. As soon as my time was up on my non-compete agreement, I came back to St. Augustine.
How many years did you work in Palatka? 3 or
about
4 or 5 years?
About a year and a half or
about
so.
A year and a half.
And then opened their first office on Cordova Street. And then I rented from Herbie Wiles. Herbie
Wow.
was my buddy. Terry, don't spend that money till you collect it. That commission till you collect it.
Mhm.
Yeah, what was
We were
real
just
estate
good buddies.
selling for back then, Terry?
Uh,
What was real estate selling? Do you remember back then? What could you buy a house for back then?
when I went to work for Mr. Overby, the most expensive house that I can remember was a $55,000 house on the bayfront. And we had a guy come in the office, and he wanted to buy two. He wanted to buy one for himself and one for his in-laws. They were going to move to St. Augustine. He came in and he gave a deposit. He was going to buy these two houses, and about the same price on the water over there. Check bounced, and we never heard from him again. That was it.
Oh gosh.
I like the land part of it. I'm the best at the land part of it.
Yeah.
My girls and my office salespeople are really good. I got one that's been with me about 20 years. She's just excellent, and so they provide expertise when I need it. And them or Rusty or you, so it's nice that we all work together.
Yeah.
You know, so to speak, and we could provide good quality service to the public.
Well, we appreciate your service in the St. Augustine, St. Johns County community. You've been a stable structure here in this area.
Well, I'm 85 years old now. I never thought I'd live to be that old, but I sure am grateful.
Yeah. Well, you got many more years left.
Yeah,
So
we're still at it every day. So.
kicking strong. So we like that.
Yep.
This has been Land Title Talk. We appreciate you being here, Terry. We really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
It's fun reminiscing, and
Yeah.
gosh, you think about the days you used to dial people's phone numbers by about down the last 5 digits. You get anybody in this town, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember when St. Augustine Shores was the Boondocks.
Yeah.
That was way back in the woods.
And most
Yeah.
of St. Augustine South was
All
Dirt roads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
When I
crazy.
started, they had a mobile home set up on US 1. They were selling lots in St. Augustine South. You had to buy two at the time, and they
Yep.
were $50 a piece or 100. And
But it took a little bit longer to earn $100 back
I
then.
know, but still, you hear about that price. Is it amazing?
that's
Yeah.
true. And then it was a guy, I can't remember his name, obviously, but he bought the last 50 or 60 that they had.
Wow. Last
They just-
50 or 60 lots.
Well, they wholesaled them for $200 a piece or something.
Wow. Isn't that
He
crazy?
did, he did good.
Well, we really do appreciate you being here with us and reminiscing and going back in
Thank
time a little bit. And so thank you very much for spending time with us to do that. Rusty, as always, thank you for
Thank
being
you.
with us.
Hey,
And Julie, thanks.
Thanks, Julie.
This has been Land Title Talk. We'll see you in, 1 week.